So, good morning and welcome to this video podcast of Liverpool versus AFC Bournemouth from the weekend. My name is Jeff Hayward and with me is Tony, Mr. Tiggs, as he's known on social media. Hi, Tony. How are you doing? You all right?
Not too bad, Jeff. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. And we are going to go over the Cherries trips to the league leaders at the weekend. Remember, if you want to listen to the full podcast, which includes a preview of our next fixture against Crystal Palace, massive game that one, as well as some audible highlights from Saturday's trip to Anfield, then just search for AFC Bournemouth on your podcast app. Right, so it was always going to be a tough ask to get anything from a team who have lost 3 of their last 4 games. And Tony, it was a 2-1 defeat for Bournemouth, but realistically, did you expect anything other than a defeat from the game?
Realistically, no. I mean, I suppose as we got closer to the game and looking at their previous form, that feeling inside started to build that we could maybe get something, we could do something. And we'll talk about the game, I know, in a minute. But just before kickoff, I was feeling very positive, very positive.
Yeah, I must say, having watched Liverpool play against Atletico and Watford, where they didn't really turn up, and then Chelsea, you thought, oh, maybe they've got a bit of a dip going, and they were without Henderson. I heard also they were without Alisson before kickoff, which, you know, Adrian, after that blunder he made against Chelsea, was a cause for optimism. But our team sheet wasn't quite as strong as I expected it to be. I don't know what you thought.
Well, it's interesting you say that because obviously King wasn't there, which was a worry. And then I saw that Stanislas was. I didn't know about the King injury initially. And so my first thought was what you had said earlier in the week when talking about how West Ham had played against Liverpool and how they'd had their wingers tracking back all the time with the Liverpool wingers. And I thought, well, that maybe Stanislas and Fraser, they could do that. They could try and track the Liverpool wingers. So at first I thought it maybe was, you know, an amazing Jeff premonition of a tactical move. That obviously Eddie listens to the podcast. Maybe he thought he'd follow it. So apart from that, I think we went as strong as we could. I'm glad that we played Lerma. I might not have been saying that if he got a yellow card, but I am glad we played Lerma because we're in a situation where every single game really is a must-win game, you know, as far as best we can. So, the only disappointment was what happened later in the game in terms of who we had on the bench available. But I'm sure we'll get to that.
Yeah, I mean, let's just talk about the bench because the bench was not the strongest that I've seen it for a long time. And I remember looking at it thinking, crikey, I hope we don't get too many injuries in this one.
I said exactly the same thing. I looked at it and not only did I think to myself, oh, that looks weak, it also looked a little bit, I don't know how to say this, a little bit boring. I just thought, who could come off that bench that could actually, if we needed someone to spark us back into life, who could do it? And I didn't see anyone, really. Yeah,
I think that was the downside, I think, of both King and Francis not being on the bench. Not that Francis is a game changer, but we'll come on to why we missed him a bit later. But also, I agree, you know, there wasn't really any sense of anyone who could come on and change the game for us. Gosling was the man, or Solanke, and you know, you just realise how thin the squad is with all the injuries we've got at the moment. When you look at that and you think, oh, is that the best we can do?
Yeah, I suppose the one thing that I did quite like to see was Surridge. Surridge was on the bench there, and I thought, okay, well, he's probably not going to get a chance in this game, but at least he's now in the matchday squad, and maybe that will give him a chance later on down the line. We need someone at some point to deputise, don't we, for Wilson, I would imagine.
Agreed. So the game starts, and early on, there's a little bit of Liverpool attack, but 9 minutes in, boom. We're up the other end of the pitch with a rapier-like counter-attack. Fraser sticks a long ball over the top to Wilson, or in Wilson's direction. And was there a shove on Gomez, or wasn't there a shove on Gomez? What did you think?
Well, it's interesting because just previous to the goal, Wilson had a bit of a ticking off of pulling a shirt on Gomez, I think, and then Liverpool were pushed so up, and Ramsdale shouted, out, everyone push up, push up. We did. The ball came in, and for me, the two of them were very close together. And if the goal had gone the other way, I would be saying that was a push. And how things have gone against us previously in terms of VAR decisions, I can't fathom how some of the ones that we have gone against us have gone, and then that doesn't. In a weird way, it's like, oh, our luck has changed here. This is our day.
Completely agree. I mean, if that had been Liverpool at our place and they'd have had that attack, the goal would have stood and we'd be all moaning about VAR, saying, oh, well, it's all favouring the big teams. But actually, when you watch it, take VAR out of the equation. I mean, there's a little bit of contact, but Gomez does two things, I think, that make the ref think that's not a foul. One, he doesn't fall over, which he possibly should have done. Not that I'm one for gamesmanship, but if that was Adam Smith, he falls over and gets the free kick.
He does.
And secondly, I think he was a little bit off balance and nervous that Callum was there, and he kind of stumbles a bit even without the shove. So, I think fair play to the ref for playing on, because in the 1970s or 80s, that is not a foul and we play on. Today, I was amazed like you. But the ball gets squared by Wilson over to Billing, who a bit reminiscent of last week, I felt, with Stacey on the overlap, except this time it's Lerma, and Liverpool don't defend it very well. I think one of the players on their team that was called in was Milner to play left back, and instead of going with Lerma the runner, he just sticks in front of Billing. Lerma gets a free run to the byline, squares it across. Who's there? Callum Wilson, fresh from his altercation with Gomez, sticks it in the far post. 1-0 Bournemouth. I mean, I couldn't quite believe it. I don't know about you. I thought, whoa, pinch myself.
No, I couldn't believe it either. It was a hold your breath moment, and then there was the whole, is it going to be ruled out? But yeah, an incredible start to the game, a wonderful link up between those players. Great to see Billing and Lerma pushing forward at the same time, knowing that Cook's still there as well.
It felt to me like we had a bit of a game plan. I don't know about you, but there wasn't too much playing out from the back going on. It was more, if we get the ball, look for Wilson long, look in behind their fullbacks and try and exploit that space. And that goal actually was the game plan played perfectly.
Yeah, it's a shame we couldn't keep that game plan up. We'll get to the other goals later.
Well, perhaps the most decisive. Actually, after that goal, and we're 1-0 up, and the VAR process gets played through, the goal stands. We then still keep attacking, earn a corner, the ball gets swung in, and Nathan Ake rises like a salmon.
Yes, he does.
Connects with it on the meat of his forehead, and Adrian makes a bit of a meal of it because it does come straight at him, but tips it onto the bar. And honestly, either side of him, we could have been 2-0 up, couldn't we?
Yeah, there's been a few of those opportunities throughout this season where it's centimetres, isn't it, between it hitting the goalkeeper's gloves and it being a goal. And at that point, I really started to realise that as a goalkeeper, he didn't look very confident on that day, Adrian, and I wondered, this is how we're going to get at these, isn't it? He's always having to push and punch the ball away. He's not happy about catching it. But fantastic from Ake to rise above and get ahead on it. How he is such of a threat. I mean, I know he's not short, but at the same time, he's not that tall, but he leaps so high.
It was a terrific jump. And I wondered, how much of it did you think was Liverpool playing badly and lacking confidence and being a bit nervy? How much of it was us playing well?
Well, that's an interesting question. I think I'd say it's probably more in our favour at the moment. We were in the ascendancy in the match. I don't think it was them playing badly. I think their confidence, rightly, was a bit shaky and a bit low. But they didn't really get much of a sniff for the next sort of 10, 15 minutes. So I'd like to think it was us playing,
Yeah, I thought it was a bit of a mix. I mean, they were a little bit shakier than I've seen them recently, but I thought we were playing well. We were hitting the ball really nicely, passing crisply. We weren't messing around, and it was encouraging. I thought the midfield three in particular, Billing, Lerma and Cook, seemed to be playing really well. So lots of hope and confidence. But then, of course, Liverpool get a first attack, which was ball lofted through for Firmino. Ramsdale makes a fantastic save, and then crucial part of the game, which Eddie has since called the hammer blow. Steve Cook goes to clear, Bicycle kicks it away, but does his hammy at the same time. What was your take on that incident?
I just kept thinking he's going to get up in a minute. He's going to get up in a minute. He'll be absolutely fine. And then he did get up, and he was sort of limping, and then it was evident, wasn't it, that what he did there would rule him out. And unfortunately, it sounds like longer than we would hope.
And I would put money on 99.9% of Bournemouth fans saying, God, I wish we'd had Frano to come on.
Yeah, completely. And the decision that Eddie made, you look at the bench and you can understand why he made it. I think it was such a brave decision to make. Another manager might say, do you know what? I'm going to change my system round. I'm gonna pull Billing or Lerma back. I'm gonna play an extra man at the back. But Eddie, as we know, he'd been working on that all week. He would be working on it with Simpson, playing that role, probably the wrong side of the centre back pairing. But and he has to put trust in those players.
Now, if we go back to the start of December where we played Liverpool at home, a certain Nathan Ake pulled a hammy against Liverpool, chasing a through ball to Mane. And it was very reminiscent, I thought, because we were in that game up until that incident. And was it Simpson who came on in that game? I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And from a Liverpool perspective, and I think he's a young guy, and he's playing against the best team in the world. But from a Liverpool perspective, they've got to be thinking to themselves, "Oh, I remember this guy from last time. We can get at him."
And it was rather unfortunate that 5 minutes later, in fact, before that, he plays a pass out from the back straight to a Liverpool striker. And then just a minutes later, he was obviously nervous. We shouldn't be too harsh on him, but gets the ball, bad touch, then is left with only either take it round Mane or welly it into the orbit.
Yeah.
Decides to try and play the football game, which is the Bournemouth way. Mane nicks the ball off him. And even at that point, there was still a bit to do because Mane actually overhits his pass, doesn't he, to Salah?
Yeah, behind, yeah.
But I think if you look at the difference, Salah is a tremendous player, but what really impresses me about him is when he's in that sort of position, the number of times that strikers of an equivalent sort of level of experience would be happy just to hit the target. Salah amazes me by the number of times he finds the bottom corner.
Yeah.
And he hits it through Lerma's leg. The only place where Ramsdale can't get it, I'd say.
Can't see it.
Can't see it. And we're suddenly 1-1, and all of a sudden the Liverpool crowd starts being, a bit more upbeat, and it feels like here we go again.
Yeah, it really did. And it's got to be said as well, they were pressing us hard throughout the game, and I think the break in play, as much as the change of Simpson, the break in play that we had to start for the injury, it gave them a chance to regroup. We were reliant, I think, on keeping that tempo going until we got that second goal, which we were coming close to doing. So I think it was more the fact that we had to stop that gave them the confidence to push on and really get at us.
It was a massive disruption, and I felt really sorry for the boys because we'd started so well, and quickly afterwards, we're trying to play some pretty patterns in midfield. Lewis Cook loses the ball. It's a turnover on the halfway line. Van Dijk plays it through, and Mane is 1-on-1, buries it. It was such a depressing 10 minutes of play, really.
Yeah, I'm a massive fan of Lewis Cook. I really am, and I can see his value. He does so much, in terms of creating things for us. But where we were just starting to get a little bit of confidence, just starting to string some passes together, and his confidence almost turned into cockiness with that little flick. And it's such a shame because you could see on another day that might work. It was a bit like in the last game where him with that little nutmeg went on to create a goal for us. And on another day, maybe something like that would. But it did feel gutting. And I could see from Eddie's expression and his body language, why did that happen? Why have we put ourselves in this situation?
And at the point where Van Dijk plays that ball, what did you think of that defensive line that we had?
Yeah, well, substitutions affect your back line. And you could see them looking quite bewildered at each other after the ball went in. Who was supposed to be picking up who there? I don't really know.
It looked like, again, the whole sort of sense of disorganisation that the Steve Cook injury had caused kind of played into Liverpool's favour. And the sad thing was it took us 10, 15 minutes to sort that out. And from that point on, I don't know about you, but I didn't really feel Liverpool had too much threat going forwards.
No, and I remember thinking at the time, but then I thought, well, this is the way they want to play now, isn't it? They think they've won this game. They're not going to push onto us until we show them a threat, which we sort of did later on.
Well, didn't you think Stanislas was pretty lively on that flank? He was causing them problems.
Yeah, I thought he was brilliant. And for him to come in for King and for us to put so much hope in King, for him not to be there, Stanislas, brilliant, easily showed the kind of player that he used to be. I'll be honest, when he started having to track back and run, I was always worried. I am always worried about Stanislas. As great a player he is, that he will pull something, he'll injure something. But credit to him, he created probably more than anyone else that we had on that pitch.
And he had a really decent effort when he cut inside, and Adrian again showed that he's a little bit flaky. The ball was pretty much straight at him, and he sort of punched it away for a corner, which was a bizarre thing to do. But you just felt we were still in the game. We got to half-time, and even though we were 2-1 down, we had chances, and we were playing well.
Yeah, and again, Adrian, he looked so shaky, didn't he? He the choices that he was making as a goalkeeper made me think, God, we will get another chance here. We will get another really good chance. That goalkeeper will make a mistake. We will get back into this game.
So the second half started, and Liverpool were playing a bit slowly, a bit pedestrian, almost like they were sitting on that 2-1 and trying not to overexert themselves, which felt a little odd because we were threatening when we did have the ball, and they surely must have been worried that they might concede a second, but they didn't go to kill us off. And we get a chance where Billing plays a through ball to Fraser on about 60 minutes. Do you want to talk us through what happened there?
Yeah, I thought that was an amazing effort by Fraser. But the thing that really caught my eye was Billing and that ball. And he just looks, and I know it's a part of his style of play, but he looks so casual, the way he just pinged that ball over, lofted it over, and the wee man to try and lift it over the goalkeeper. Again, Adrian was so far out. I thought, this is it. This is definitely the chance. And then from nowhere, Mr. Milner arrived with a almost acrobatic clearance, which is a real shame.
I thought the ball was in. Watching it live, I was willing it to go in. It just needed a bit more pace. Maybe it got held up in the wind was a little bit blustery, and it was.
Yeah, maybe.
It just took an age to come down, which gave Milner that chance, I thought, to make the clearance. Although, what was he was about 2-3 feet from the line. I mean, fantastic to clear it from that position. Watching it again, I did wonder whether Fraser gets taken out a bit by Adrian, and maybe if he just knocks the ball past him, maybe they might get the pen. But you're right, Philip Billing, what a player, and we've had comments about him on the pod here. I know a lot of fans have thought, he looks far too casual and languid for his own good sometimes. But yesterday, he was a star man. A number of times he was breaking up play, getting forward, getting back. What an engine. And he was superb yesterday, I thought. Real standout.
Yeah, I think he is in the mould of kind of an ideal, almost box to box, isn't he? I mean, he's doing everything now. And I think when he plays a good game, that's what he does. He does a little bit of everything. When previously, I've always wondered if we are asking too much of him. Maybe he's better off just having one job at a time. But fair play for Eddie for sticking with it and, introducing more elements into his game, asking more of him, because I think now the last 3-4 games we're starting to see the Billing that we had right at the beginning of the season again. So really exciting.
And after that Fraser chance, which felt like that was the chance, the game sort of meandered a bit. I was kept looking at the clock, thinking, how come another 10 minutes have gone? Because nothing's really happened. I mean, Mane did hit the post, the sort of post crossbar bit, didn't he, from a speculative drive? But there wasn't too much going on. Rambo made a decent save from Salah as well. But honestly, it felt like we're just waiting for that last 5 minutes to give it one more go, or a set piece, really.
Yeah, I think Ake had another headed opportunity. But on Mane, and obviously a very gifted, incredible player, how he got through that game without a yellow card, I've noted down there were at least 3 times where he did a foul on Lerma. He didn't get a card for that. There was a handball. He didn't get a card for that. Surprising, actually.
I think the refereeing, because he let the Wilson challenge go, he let a lot go in that match. And a number of times there was an incident in that second half where Callum got shoved in the back by Gomez which would have been a 20-yard free kick. The ref plays on. Yeah, bizarre. And that, you're right, that incident where Lerma got fouled about 3 times, and finally after the 4th time he actually gave the foul. But he seemed to be very lax on shoves and pushes, probably because he realised that he'd made a bit of a pig's ear of that VAR decision early on.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I think at this point as well, Solanke came on for Stanislas, which I thought, why is he doing that? And then I looked at the bench and remembered that actually, what other options does he have? Someone who can play that kind of role.
Yeah, maybe Surridge might have been a better option. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know how well he could. I mean, really, it was square peg round hole, wasn't it? To put him on the left. Don't know. Hard on that.
It seemed that he put him on the left for about 10 minutes, and then he reverted to playing 4-4-2 after that wasn't really making any headway. And I struggled to remember a significant contribution from Solanke, save 1, where he knees Billing in the back.
Oh, do you know what? If he was wearing a red shirt, that would be a red card, wouldn't it? I mean, that was an awful. I don't really understand it. And now the thing is as well now, and I laugh about it, but if Billing is injured now going into the next game, or maybe more, and you've got Lerma, clock ticking on that yellow card, wouldn't that be awful?
It would. We'd already used, obviously Simpson had come on for Steve Cook. Gosling came on in the second half to replace Lerma, probably to save him for the next match. And then, Solanke makes not a lot of difference, but could potentially take Billing out of the next game. And suddenly we're back to bare bones again. Adam Smith was hobbling by the end as well. I don't know if you saw that. Yeah. I was looking at the post-match review of injuries. Cook is going to obviously be out for a few weeks with a hamstring. Francis travelled with the squad but has a knee swelling, so that hopefully won't be too serious, because he's in the back 4, I'd say, next week. And we do need that. I think we need that 3-man midfield of Billing, Lerma and Cook against Palace, because actually it's now beginning to function like a proper midfield 3.
It is, and as you alluded to a second ago, later on in the game there was another chance where Cook played in Solanke, or it looked like he was going to, and he just didn't have the engine, did he, to catch the ball? No.
So it gets to the sort of final minutes, and we have the ball down the right-hand side. Stacey takes the ball past Milner, gets tripped. The referee gives a free kick. Do you want to talk us through what happens next? Sounds like Christian sport, that.
Ake obviously was played in. He across the box there. Everyone thought he was offside for one. Saw Callum, crossed the box to Callum, and just under his studs. I've seen him do this before. It was almost as though he didn't expect the ball to come to him in some ways. And then we play on from we go to an offside, don't we? Which is so frustrating because it wasn't offside.
I I didn't think so. Having looked at it again, clearly Ake is behind the 18-yard line with his feet. But I wondered whether, if that did go to a VAR check, his little finger was probably a bit further forward than the Liverpool defender on the far side. So, even though I looked at it first time and thought, he's onside. And then I was screaming at him, score, because he could have taken that onto his left and knocked it in past the keeper. But instead he squares it across. And in fact, Callum is screaming for the ball. So I know you think, how does he miss that? Maybe he wasn't expecting it, but he was screaming for the ball. He knew what I think he'd almost like passed it into the net before the ball had come to him. It was one of those. So, I mean, whatever happened, we miss it. They get one more chance where Firmino blasts over from 6 yards, and game over. We lose 2-1, and really strange mixture of feelings.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those, isn't it? Immediately afterwards, you're gutted, especially with that chance so near the end. After a little bit of time and a little bit of thought, before talking to you, I do feel that, and I don't want to sound like we couldn't have got something, because we blatantly could have, but we're not going to look back at it as this is the game that cost us, our place in the league. If it comes to that, let's hope it doesn't.
Yeah, it was a weird feeling, because going into the game, I thought this is where Liverpool bounce back and win 3 or 4-0, and it's quite comfortable. Everybody before the game was talking about how we didn't have a chance, we're on such a bad run, blah, blah, blah. We actually play really well. We concede 2 goals through individual errors. They don't create a whole lot else. We get the luck of the VAR and we score a goal through it, and then we end up on the wrong end of a 2-1 defeat. And it felt a bit deja vu to me. That seems to have happened. I did a count back this morning. 8 times, I reckon, we've lost by an odd goal this season, where we should have got at least a point. And you can put in that Palace game when they were down to 10 men for 80 odd minutes or whatever it was. There has been the 2-1 against Wolves, where we had chances and individual mistakes cost us in that one as well. Sheffield United most recently. It's been a bit of a pattern. Newcastle, again, we were playing well, but only scored once when we were on top and not twice.
And of course, famously, Norwich,
which was a defensive calamity. And Spurs as well, you could argue, where we lose 3-2, but actually gift them a couple of goals to give them that 3-0 lead to start with. So it does feel like a bit of a pattern, and I worry that perhaps the team, that self-belief is sadly lacking to when we go ahead. Number one, to actually score to make it 2, and number 2, that we've got a defensive line capable of keeping a clean sheet.
Yeah, and I suppose to give it balance, I completely agree with you. That defensive line has not been consistent, though, has it? We keep chopping and changing who's in that back 4. It's never going to work because they are reliant upon communication, aren't they? They can't communicate well together because they're not playing with each other. I know that sounds like a bit of an excuse, but I would like to see how many times we've changed that back line, because it's got to be more than anyone else, surely.
Oh, that's a really good point, and arguably he still doesn't really know what his best back 4 is, even with the players that have been missing. Would he play Kelly? Would he play Daniels at left back, do you think? I don't know. And Steve Cook and Simon Francis without Mepham, even with Mepham, does he play Mepham? I don't think so. It's really interesting, and whatever happens next season, that back 4 feels like it should have been stronger this season, but just still too leaky for me. I always
wonder, I think every season for 4 seasons we've got a new left back in, and we've been concentrating on that left back position. But look at the rest of the back. For lots of this season, we've had Francis, we've had Cook, we've had Smith. So, we've been concentrating on replacing that left side, because we know that Charlie Daniels is not going to be able to go on forever. And, he has got injured this season. But the rest of the back line, we haven't replaced players a lot. We got Mings in, but Mings went and he didn't really play. Ake, obviously, probably the best player to ever play for us, a lot of people would say. But refreshing that defence has been a struggle, a problem.
Mm. And I would say that the right back position, Jack Stacey, I was impressed with him again yesterday. He looks really good. And aside from Billing, I thought there were other really good performances. You mentioned Stanislas, but Fraser played decently yesterday. Arguably should have scored. Stanislas was great. Wilson scored again, which is great for his confidence, and looked a menace to Gomez throughout the game. In fact, there was a bit in the centre half where he even bullied Van Dijk off the ball. So it's that we're playing well. The performances are there. We're just not getting the results, and that's the frustration, isn't it?
Yeah, it completely is. And it is. I mean, it's interesting when you lose a game and you look back and you go, "Oh, who was my man of the match there?" Because I'm finding it actually quite hard to pick. I don't know. Ake was fantastic and always is, but Stanislas for me to come in and play like that, albeit for not the whole game, fantastic. So for me, he's my man of the match. Have you decided who yours is, Jeff?
Well, I think Billing for me was exceptional. The pass to Lerma, and just the number of times that he was a real pain in the backside in that midfield, breaking up play. I thought he was great, and I've slated him a lot early on in the season, or in the mid part of the season where he had a bit of a dip. But actually, he's coming back really strong, and I just fingers crossed hope that his back is sorted, because we definitely need him. So I'd go for Billing, but great performance from the boys, and yeah, on to Crystal Palace, eh?
On to Crystal Palace, and how did they get on this weekend? Did they win?
So they beat Watford, and I think that was the encouraging thing about yesterday, was that both Watford and West Ham went down 1-0. Brighton did pick up a point against Wolves. Southampton lost to Newcastle, which brings them a little bit closer as well to the whole relegation minefield. So, yeah, it could have been worse yesterday. We put in a decent shift. We end up on the wrong side of a result to the team that's going to win the league, and we're disappointed. So, onwards and upwards.
And I think upwards is the word, because if we win our next game and other things go in our favour around us, we fly up that table, I do believe. So
that's a very good point to make. And thanks, Tony, for coming on this video podcast. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show. If you like the video, then do feel free to give us a like and a subscribe on YouTube, as there will be more fallout from this game on the channel over the next few days. We'll see you in the next video. Up the Cherries.
Up the Cherries.
Back in the day!